Part 71. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 701. Immediately after landing on the ground, Suliang rushed directly into the crowd like a wolf among sheep. His speed was almost at its extreme, making it difficult for people to see his figure clearly. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the people fell to the ground. Although they were not alive or dead, they were still wailing in pain and were already seriously injured. See this. Everyone was shocked for a moment. They forgot to take action and stood there blankly. Is this the power Suliang has at this moment? How could one person achieve such a feat in the blink of an eye? Now, they suddenly realized that if Suliang wanted to kill them, he would have succeeded long ago. Where is the need to talk to them so much nonsense? The one who has been provoking and scheming is actually such a person? This is really, really scary, right? At this moment, Suliang has arrived outside the crowd, holding a sword in his hand. Who else wants to fight with me? As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. Looking at the people lying on the ground, they seemed to be still alive, but that was just Suliang's mercy. If they persist and anger Suliang, I'm afraid that there will really be countless casualties next. Then, everyone had no choice but to put away their weapons, clasped their fists in salute, and took the initiative to admit defeat. If you don't admit defeat, everyone will be dead. It seems that he has no fate with Dilu after all. Everyone sighed, feeling a little melancholy and unwilling for a while. Immediately, under Suliang's gaze, everyone turned around and left, no longer willing to stay here. Seeing everyone leaving, Suliang breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that we won. Suliang turned around and looked at his ladies. Let's go and see what is at the deepest part of this imperial road. To this, all the girls were extremely excited. This is the path to the emperor, and it is the opportunity to become emperor. Followed Suliang to the gate of Beatty City. Looking at the wide city gate, before Suliang reached out to push it open, the closed city gate suddenly started to move on its own. After a squeaking sound, it slowly opened, as if to welcome Suliang and others to enter. At the moment when the gate of Beatty City opened, Suliang and others were extremely vigilant. At the end of Ude Road, such a huge and majestic city appeared. It didn't take much thinking to know that there must be something fishy in it. Be careful and hide behind me. Suliang reminded his wives that with his strength, even if something happened here, he would be able to react immediately and make a judgment. But if it was his ladies, especially Qin Binjao and others, Suliang was really worried. To this, Qin Binjao and others hid behind Suliang obediently. Of course they don't want to stay like this and become a burden to their husband. But if they are unwilling, they can practice later, but now, they don't want to cause trouble to their husband. If your husband gets hurt because of your own nonsense, the husband will definitely not blame it, and even the sisters may not blame it, but he will feel very guilty. Be careful, let's go in and take a look. Suliang reminded his ladies, and then he took the lead and walked in. However, after this step, no problems occurred. The only difference is that the surroundings seemed to be a little more lively. Looking around in confusion, Suliang saw a bustling neighborhood. It looks no different from other towns outside, but more lively. It seems to be much more prosperous than the city in the Holy Mountain. However, even so, it seems that no one in the city is a cultivator. This is very strange. Although the world is bustling with people, there are very few people with the qualifications to practice. But given the huge base, this number is actually not very small. Even in remote towns, you can see at least one or two cultivators. Such a prosperous town, but not a single practitioner? This is nothing more than a joke. Suliang, what's going on with these people? Qin Binjao glanced at these people in confusion, feeling rather shuddering. I was outside just now, but I didn't see them at all. That's right. Just outside the city, Suliang and the others did not see any signs of human beings in the city, even if the city gate was wide open. On the contrary, as soon as I stepped in, I saw a city full of people. This feeling is really too weird. It doesn't look like a phantom formation. Suliang sensed it carefully for a moment, then frowned and said, "But it doesn't seem like these people really exist. I always feel that the state of these people here is very strange." It was as if someone had used great supernatural powers to intercept it from time and space and fix it at this moment. Not of the past, not of the present, and not of the future. But it clearly appears in the past, present, and future. The principle behind this is somewhat esoteric and difficult to understand, and even Suliang couldn't figure it out for a while. "It's better to take a closer look," Suliang suggested. "Nothing can be found outside, so it's better to go deep inside and observe the situation carefully before making a decision. You and Zhou have already arrived here, and the chance to become emperor is just ahead. Suliang can't give up now, can he?" Then everyone continued to move forward and went deeper into the city. Wherever they passed, everyone caused quite a stir. After all, Suliang and the others were all powerful and advanced in cultivation. Just walking there, even if they didn't release any aura, could give people a strong sense of oppression. Very eye-catching. And this also means that everything in this town is clearly real. After confirming this, Suliang and others were even more surprised and confused. Everything in this Beatty city is far beyond their imagination. Even as the Holy Lord of the Righteous Path and the Supreme Emperor of the Demonic Path, it is difficult to understand the principle. Stopping a person, Suliang asked, "Excuse me, where is the center of Beatty city? Isn't that right? You can't see such a conspicuous palace." The man glanced at Suliang and pointed at a huge palace behind him far in front of Suliang and others. "The palace is majestic, and it is ingenious. It is obviously not more magnificent, but after taking a look at it, you still feel like you are shocked. Especially the little aura revealed above made Suliang and others gain some insights after taking a look at it. Instantly, Suliang and others became alert. It's just a palace, but it has such inexplicable power. I'm afraid that the so-called key to becoming emperor lies in this palace, right? Why don't you go in and take a look?" Suliang and others looked at each other and saw a definite answer in each other's eyes. "In this case, let's go and have a look." After practicing all the way up to now, Suliang and others have not been worried or scared no matter how big the crisis is before them. Not to mention a mere mysterious and strange city and palace. If they hesitate to move forward even if they have the opportunity, their cultivation will not be as good as it is now. But at the moment when everyone was walking towards the palace, a figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. And this figure was wearing a white dress. The moment they saw Bai Yi, all the girls looked at Suliang. But they all still remember that before entering the Imperial Road, Suliang had been investigating, looking for a clue about Bai Yi. However, after searching for a long time, they could not find any information about this. Then, so I had to come to Dai look first. And could the person in front of me be the person my husband is looking for? Aside. The moment this figure appeared, Suliang was stunned for a moment, thinking that this was the white man he had seen more than once. But after taking a closer look, Suliang denied this. That's right, the face of the man in front of him is very similar to that of Bai Yi, and his figure is also almost the same. They are even wearing white clothes. But she doesn't have Bai Yi's temperament. A temperament that even Suliang couldn't describe. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 702. Even. The figure in front of him had a dull feeling, as if he were an empty doll without any thoughts. Guys, please follow me. This beautiful figure made an inviting gesture, as if it wanted to lead Suliang and others to the direction of the palace. To this, Suliang and others looked at each other, nodded and agreed. After all, their goal is that palace, no matter who this person is or what he wants to do. Once there, everything is known. Chapter 602 Chapter 601 The Last Heroine, the Great Emperor in White. Then, following this beautiful shadow, Suliang and others walked all the way towards the palace. And along the way, wherever a few people passed by, the people on both sides of the street saluted the beautiful figure with great respect. It seems that this beautiful figure has a high prestige here. And soon, following the beautiful figure into the palace, Suliang and others suddenly discovered that there was no one in the entire huge palace. After a while, everyone stopped in front of a palace-like room. Dong dong dong. Qianying knocked on the door. In an instant, the palace door opened, and a beautiful figure in white walked out. This moment, Suliang's breathing seemed to have stopped. Found it? That's her. Surprisingly, I really found her here. For a moment, Suliang was in a rare daze and lost his composure. Thinking about it carefully, he actually saw this man in white only twice in total. And Suliang didn't feel very good about these two meetings. But for some reason, Suliang felt that this beautiful figure in white clothes was very special, and he couldn't help but want to find it. Even if he knew there was something fishy in it, he was willing to do so. At this moment, Bai Yi was finally found, but Suliang's mood rarely calmed down. It was like meeting an old friend whom I hadn't seen for many, many years. There was a smile on Suliang's lips. Haven't seen you for a long time. No, you must have never seen it before, right? Suliang shook his head and laughed, throwing away the inexplicable thoughts in his heart. What are you laughing at? But Bai came forward, blinked his big innocent eyes, and looked at Suliang curiously. Did you think of something interesting? Do not know why. In Bai Yi's eyes, Suliang actually saw a glimmer of expectation. Expect? Why expect it? Suliang didn't understand, but he still shook his head and said. It's nothing, I just remembered some past events. But after hearing this, Bai Yi became even more excited and looked forward to it. He took Suli's hand and said. Tell me about it, okay? I want to know. Ahem, this, girl, we don't know each other yet, right? Suliang quickly took a step back and said helplessly. Without realizing it, he actually let this man in white get so close to him. Moreover, holding hands is not too intimate, but these are two people meeting for the first time. Is there something wrong? Didn't you see that all the ladies in my family were already looking at me like that? Suliang could tell at a glance that they were clearly doubting him, and suspected that Bai Yi was their sister that he had found at some point. But, I really don't know her. In this regard, Suliang expressed that he was very helpless, but there was nothing he could do about it. Oh, that's right, but I know you. Bai Yi looked at Suliang seriously. You're finally here, I miss you so much. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere at the scene became even more wrong. The eyes of Qin Benjao and others were very strange, as if they had really confirmed something. Look, you still say you don't know me, but you also say you miss you. Is this called not knowing you? But I really don't know him. Suliang said he was helpless and innocent. Sure enough, there is something fishy about this Bai Yi. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come up and said that he knew him, and he would have caused such a big trouble for him as soon as he met him. Girl, don't talk nonsense. I've never seen you, right? Suliang sighed helplessly. At this moment, he no longer thought about the imperial path or becoming emperor. We just met today. When did you meet me? Well, keep it secret. Bai Yi smiled and said something that almost made Suliang cry. If you keep this secret, do you know how much I have to pay to appease my ladies? For some reason, Suliang always felt that Bai Yi did it on purpose. Okay, stop standing here and talking. Bai smiled and took Suliang's hand and walked inside. Just take a rest at my place first. I'll let someone arrange a room for you. Just rest assured and stay here. Nothing will happen to you. And as she spoke, Qin Benjao came to Suliang's other side very naturally, and naturally held Suliang's hand in her arms. But at this moment, a burst of sharp killing intent came, and then, there was a huge force, bombarding in the direction of Qin Benjao. This power appeared so suddenly and quickly that Qin Benjao could not react. Only Suliang, who was in the middle, noticed something was wrong, but was unable to respond. He could only take a step sideways and block the front. He was blown away by the blow, and a trace of blood appeared on the corner of his mouth. It is conceivable that if this blow hits Qin Benjao, something big will really happen. Suliang! Qin Benjao screamed and hurriedly helped Suliang up, staring at Bai Yi with some annoyance. What are you doing? I don't know either. Bai Yi also looked a little panicked. I seem to have lost control just now. Are you okay? Is this an injury caused by me? I. Looking at them, they all looked like they were about to cry. See this? Suliang sighed, stood up, and patted Bai Yi's little head. Don't worry, I'm fine. Although it looked like he was injured, given Suliang's cultivation and strength, this injury could be recovered in the blink of an eye. It's not really a big problem. Really? Bai Yi looked at Suliang with tears in his eyes, took Suliang's hand. Yes, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it. However, in those pure and clear eyes, there is a little bit of pleasure hidden deep in them. But this pleasure only passed by in a flash, and even Suliang couldn't be sure whether he had seen it wrong. It's okay, I'm really okay, no need to apologize. Suliang comforted Bai Yi softly. Didn't you say that you still have to ask someone to take us to arrange a room? Let's go quickly. It's very late now and we are actually very tired. Yeah, I'll go right away. As if he felt that he could finally do something to compensate Suliang, Bai Yi was very happy and said hurriedly. Immediately. Then he led Suliang straight to a large hall that was much smaller than the one in Bai. This is your room. Take a look. Is there anything you don't like about it? No, very good, just right. Suliang smiled and nodded. He had no intention of rejecting this room, which was obviously too big and too luxurious. Nice. You love it? Bai Yi nodded and said to the others. Come on, let me take you to see your room, too. However, to Bai Yi's expectation, all the girls shook their heads in unison. No need, we can just live with Lang Jun. Although there was no discussion, with the tacit understanding between the girls and Suliang, such a small matter could be decided with just one look. That's why. The reason why Suliang agreed to this ridiculously big room was because it could accommodate all of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 703. With more than a dozen people in a room, such a thing may seem outrageous. But Suliang and others thought it was nothing. After all, I just came to such a weird city and met an equally weird person like Bai Yi. Suliang and others agreed that they should be more careful. This is not a place like the Holy Mountain. It is full of dangers. If you are not careful, your life will be in danger. In a place like this, of course we can't be spread apart. But, facing the request of Suliang and others, Bai Yi was a little stunned, and seemed a little unwilling to agree. I still have a lot of rooms here, enough for you. No, we want to live together. Do you doubt me? No, we are husband and wife after all. Isn't it normal to do things that a husband and wife should do? As soon as these words came out, Suliang clearly saw a gloom flash across Bai Yi's eyes. Something fishy. I and my ladies just want to be in the same room. This is a perfectly normal request, and it's not like this room can't be accommodated. Logically speaking, Bai Yi should have no reason to refuse. Not to mention, after being rejected by his side, his face became a little gloomy. In addition, he suddenly took action against Qin Binjao. Suliang was almost certain that Bai Yi was definitely not as simple as he seemed. Just like this Beatty city, it looks ordinary but is extremely complicated on the inside. It's like a turbulent flow, making it difficult to see clearly. Late at night, Suliang and others gathered together, but they did not rest. Instead, they all looked serious. It feels really weird here. Tan Qinja frowned and said. Her cultivation is indeed much better than Qin Binjao and others. But compared to Wan Qing, Suliang, and the others were still a little behind. Therefore, she could indeed feel many secret things, but that was all. There is no way to discover the truth hidden in it. This Beatty city, including the man in white, is a bit strange. Suliang frowned and said. That man in white is probably the legendary emperor. The emperor who achieved eternity. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned. Could that girl-like person be such a powerful person? Only. Why is she so polite to people like herself? It stands to reason that anyone who walked through the Emperor's Road and arrived at Beatty City should have attacked her throne. It would have been considered very generous of her not to kill herself and others. No matter how you think about it, you shouldn't be so polite. And Suliang closed his mouth halfway through his words. And why does that guy in white always act like he knows him and has known him for a long time? That man in white had indeed appeared in the simulation of true Lord Liasu. But during that simulation, the two never met at all, but at the end, there was a faint figure in white. This doesn't count as acquaintance at all, right? With a sigh, Suliang had a headache for a while. He had so many questions, but he couldn't get any answers at all. Not even a clue. This is really difficult to do. And while everyone was discussing, the figure in white clothes stood on the distant sky, looking at everything in this room from a distance. Seeing them secretly talking about themselves late at night, she didn't react at all. And until the candlelight went out, there was a muffled sound in the room. The beautiful woman in white frowned slightly, her face was as cold as ice, and her jade hands were tightly clenched. An extremely strong energy rose up in her hand, flickering on and off, seemingly ready to be released at any time, destroying everything in front of her. But finally. However, Bai Yi still took back this energy and turned around to leave with an expressionless face. Early the next morning, Suliang got up early and came outside the door, feeling a little tired. After all, there were too many doubts in Beatty City. After coaxing his ladies to sleep, Suliang fell into a rare insomnia and struggled for a long time before finally falling asleep. After falling asleep, Suliang also woke up very early and was not stable at all. Should we make some breakfast? Suliang rubbed his chin and thought. Of course he didn't dare to eat the food here, but he still brought some ingredients with him. Enough for me and my ladies to eat here for a long time. And just when the words fell, Bai suddenly appeared from behind Suliang, his delicate chin rested on Suliang's shoulder, and his two soft and boneless jade hands were also supporting him. What did you say? Do you want to make breakfast? Oh, yes. Suliang was startled, but he recovered immediately and said with a smile. Are you coming too? As soon as he finished speaking, Bai Yi nodded vigorously. Need. His eyes were shining, Tan's mouth was slightly open, and he felt like his saliva was about to flow out. This look made Suliang a little confused. It's just a breakfast, is that all? He is already an emperor, so he has not even had breakfast, right? However, seeing Bai Yi almost drooling, Suliang smiled helplessly. Okay, just wait for me here and I'll do it for you. Say it. Turn around and go to the kitchen. I will go with you. Bai Yi said hurriedly, with a sense of longing in his beautiful eyes. Suliang glanced at Bai Yi in confusion again. Although she wasn't sure why she had to take a look at the breakfast he made, it seemed harmless. Then, Suliang had no choice but to nod. After all, we are still on someone else's territory. Of course, there is no need to refuse such a small matter. Then, among the excited spectators in Bai, Suliang finally prepared the breakfast. And, because it was made for my wife and the others, the amount of breakfast seemed a bit large. However, Suliang used his own ingredients, so it didn't matter. Okay, it's done. Let's have a taste. Putting all the breakfast on the table, Suliang said with a smile. Wow, it smells so good. Bai Yi swallowed, feeling like he couldn't wait any longer. Next moment, Suliang felt his eyes blurred, and when he came back to his senses, everything in front of him had disappeared. Even the plates were neatly stacked aside and looked very clean. At this moment, Suliang was completely stunned. Are you finished eating? Suliang asked with an inexplicable expression. What he cooked was food for more than a dozen people, and he didn't even eat it himself. The food for more than a dozen people was eaten by one person? Even cultivators cannot eat so much food so quickly. Yeah, it's a bit delicious, so I can't help but eat more. Bai Yi nodded obediently and gave a lovely burp. Let's go, how about we go for a walk in the city? Is it really okay for you to do this? Suliang couldn't help but ask. After all, this is too much to eat, right? Seeing that Bai Yi's face was already flushed with beads of sweat, and she was having trouble walking, she still nodded and said. No problem, let's go play. I'll take you for a walk around the city. This whole city is all my fault. Okay. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 704. Suliang nodded helplessly. It's a rare invitation from Bai Yi. He and Bai Yi should be the only two people who should be able to ask something from Bai Yi's words. As for the breakfast for my ladies, just have to wait for the next time. Recalling Bai Yi's previous actions, Suliang always felt that something was wrong. I eat breakfast because I really want to eat it. But eat so much at once. Compared to the excuse that it's too delicious. It's more like you don't want others to eat it, but you don't want to waste it, so you just eat it yourself? Why is that? Suliang didn't quite understand. And at the same time, when Qin Benjao and others got up hungry and went straight to breakfast. But they found that what was waiting for them was just a pile of empty plates. Hey, where's our breakfast? Qin Benjao and others were all a little confused. In Beatty City. Bai took Suliang's hand and led Suliang around Beatty City. His attitude was very cordial, as if he didn't notice anything was wrong at all. But Suliang was helpless. He looked down at Bai Yi holding his hand, then at the happy Bai Yi in front of him, and sighed inaudibly. Obviously he only met her the next day, and he even still had doubts about her. But she acted as if she was very familiar with him, and she never stopped engaging in various intimate behaviors with him. What's amazing is that Suliang doesn't even have any thoughts of resisting. It's as if this kind of thing happened often a long time ago, and it's really natural. Where are we going? Suliang asked curiously. Since leaving the palace, Bai Yi has taken himself to wander around Beatty City. Until now, there seems to be no destination. Just hanging out. Bai Yi said matter-of-factly and patted his belly. Fortunately, I finally digested it completely after such a long walk. Just hanging out. Suliang frowned slightly, unable to understand Bai Yi's thoughts. He originally thought that Bai Yi called him out because he really had something to say to him. For example, her identity, the origin of Beatty City, or the imperial path and the opportunity to become emperor. Even if Bai Yi suddenly takes action against him, he won't be surprised. However, Suliang is very confused by the current situation of not doing anything or saying anything. What else can I do? Bai Yi glanced at Suliang curiously. You have finally come to my place once. Of course you have to take a stroll around my place. See how my Beatty City is being run by me now. Did you finally come here once? This is obviously my first time here. Listening to Bai Yi's incomprehensible words, Suliang sighed, feeling completely confused. Obviously I can understand every word, but when they are put together, I don't understand the meaning at all. How is this going? Riddler or something, can't he talk properly? But Suliang still followed Bai Yi's words, looked at the Beatty City around him, couldn't help but nodded, and said, "It's really nice. This is the busiest place I've ever seen." Suliang said this sincerely. The most prosperous city he had seen before was the one in the Holy Mountain. But even there, it is not as prosperous and lively as here. It's really something I've only seen in my life. It can be said that apart from the number of immortal cultivators, there is indeed nothing more prosperous than here. After hearing Suliang's words, Bai Yi immediately became happy, hugged Suliang's arms in his arms, and let him fall into the peak of pride. With a happy smile on his face and his head resting on Suliang's shoulder, Bai Yi said with satisfaction, "As long as you like it, that's fine. Ahem, this is your place after all. It doesn't matter whether I like it or not, right?" Suliang coughed slightly, feeling a little embarrassed. This is obviously Bai Yi's territory, why should he like it? So, what is going on with this guy? Suliang frowned slightly, becoming more and more confused. Speaking of which, what is going on in Beatty City? While Bai Yi was in a good mood, Suliang asked, "Why do you feel that the state of existence here is so wonderful?" "I had nothing to do, so I worked it out bit by bit." Bai Yi waved his hand, in fact he didn't want to talk about this at all. Immediately, looking at a candied horse store not far ahead, Bai Yi's eyes lit up. "I want to eat that, can you buy it for me?" "Okay, I'll buy it for you." Suliang nodded, but felt a little confused. As the owner of the city, it's just a bunch of candied haws, why do you still need to buy it? This was so outrageous that Suliang almost complained. But then I thought about it, if I agreed, it seemed that it would be able to relieve some of Suliang's doubts. Then Suliang agreed simply and neatly. When he came to the candied haws vendor, Suliang subconsciously took out the money and handed it over. However, the boss just glanced at Suliang with a strange expression. "This guest, please stop joking. I have been traveling around the world for so many years, but I have never seen a coin like yours. It's just a bunch of candied haws. If you really don't have money, you can just tell me and I will give you a bunch. Why do you play with me like this?" Hearing this, Suliang was stunned. "Never seen it? Something is wrong, what I have in my hand is exactly what is commonly used in the world now. Unless he was a person from thousands of years ago, how could he not have seen him before? Could it be?" Suliang thought of the results of his investigation yesterday, and seemed to have determined something in his mind. If this is the case, then this person's power is really unfathomable. Even the Lord of Yinghuo can't do this to intercept a period of time from time and space and place it in the current world, right? Is this so-called great emperor so outrageous? Chapter 603 Chapter 602 The final simulation begins. And just then, Bai Yi had already walked up and took the things from Suliang's hand. Then he took out another spiritual stone and threw it over. Here, this should be enough, right? Say it. After taking the things, he grabbed Suliang and left. She looked like she was very worried about what Suliang would discover. Ahem, don't worry about it, he is joking with you. Bai Yi coughed lightly and tried to explain to Suliang what had just happened. Look, you were really deceived by him, right? Yeah, I was indeed deceived by him. Suliang nodded seriously and said. However, seeing Suliang's appearance, Bai Yi was stunned for a moment. Immediately, sighing, his voice became much calmer. You should have a lot to know, right? Now, you can ask me. As long as I know something, I will definitely tell you. But I didn't expect it. Suliang just shook his head and said softly. No, I don't have anything to ask. After hearing this, Suliang watched Bai Yi's pretty face sink for a moment, then recovered quickly. She also knew it in her heart. If Suliang still asks her, it means that Suliang is just guessing, or not even guessing at all. But there is no need to even ask, which proves that you have determined what you want. So, everything I want to hide, the secret I want to reveal as late as possible, how long can I keep it hidden? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 705. Although what Suliang discovered was only insignificant things, it also meant that he was getting closer and closer to the truth. Frowning slightly, Bai Yi's mood turned gloomy for a moment. But soon, it recovered. Showing a big smile to Suliang, Bai said in a cheerful voice. Let's go over there, there's something over there that I really want to eat. Well, okay, let's go eat together. Suliang nodded and agreed. And at the same time, Qin Benjao and others also set off to find their husband. Just when Bai Yi and Suliang were having fun in Beatty City, the girls finally came over. The moment they saw Suliang, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Although they all know Suliang's strength very well and are very confident. But this is the Emperor's Road after all. The entire Beatty City looks very strange, and there is another person in Bai Yi who looks even stranger, who is suspected to have the power of the great Emperor. Who can rest assured? As long as they are not together, it is impossible to be completely relieved. Therefore, after discovering that he had neither breakfast nor his husband, the girls immediately went out and looked for him. The strange thing is that no one seemed to stop them along the way. Even the person who brought them here yesterday did not show up. This made the girls move very smoothly. After a little searching, they found Suliang's traces. Suliang, don't you take us with you when you go out to play? Qin Benjao pouted, ran straight to Suliang, hugged Suliang. Humph, I didn't even have anything to eat for breakfast, but you went out to eat? Do you think you don't love me anymore? It seemed like she was making a fuss unreasonably, but her side blocked by Suliang kept moving towards Bai Yi. It can be said to be an extremely obvious hint. Ahem, my fault, let's go, I'll take you to have something to eat. Suliang suggested. It just so happens that I just found a few very good places, and the taste is not much different from what I cook. Immediately, turning to look at Bai. Look, you've already eaten, so don't waste time with us. Why don't you go back first? After hearing this, Bai Yi looked at the girls around Suliang, a little hesitant. Go back by yourself and let him be with them. Unwillingly. However, with my current status, there seems to be no way to stop anything. Ah, it's so annoying. If not, I would have, Emotions surged in his heart, but Bai still had a sweet and gentle smile on his face. Okay, then hurry up. If you don't come back for a long time, I will be worried about you. Got it? Are you threatening us? If we don't go back for a long time, will they come to arrest us? Suliang suddenly understood and said with a chuckle. Don't worry, we will go back soon. In any case, before you understand Bai Yi's identity and purpose, try not to conflict with him. This is not a sign of cowardice, but necessary caution. After all, Suliang, 11 Hing, and others all guessed that Bai was the emperor. Then, separating from Bai Yi, Suliang and others found a secluded corner and began to share their findings. We walked around the palace before we came out, but we didn't find anyone. Tao Yaoyao touched her chin and pretended to be serious. Then what happened to the man who took us to the palace yesterday? It's very simple, just some incarnations. Suliang waved his hand and told what he had learned this morning. Listening to Suliang's words, everyone looked confused and shocked. Especially Qin Binjao, everyone was stunned. Is it really possible to intercept a section from the long river of time and space and place it here? She now has some experience and achievements in the power of time and space, but it is still difficult to imagine such a method. I don't know, maybe. Suliang shrugged, bought some things, and handed them to Qin Binjao and others. Here, eat a little. It seems that I don't have time to cook for you this morning. By the way, why didn't Suliang make breakfast for us? After hearing Suliang's words, Qin Binjao finally woke up and asked with some dissatisfaction. It has become a habit to wake up every morning, have sex with your husband, and then eat the breakfast cooked by your husband, and you will feel uncomfortable if you don't do it for a whole day. But there just wasn't any today. I did it, but she ate it all. Suliang said helplessly, even he didn't take a bite, okay. Herself, alone. Qin Binjao felt a little surprised. That was enough for 10 people. How could one person finish it all? But then, after thinking about it carefully, Qin Binjao suddenly became interested. Hey, Suliang, tell me, does she like you? Puff. Suliang almost spit out everything in his mouth. He was a little confused. He looked at his girlfriend in shock. Suliang was completely stunned. Don't talk nonsense. Who taught you this? That's obviously the case. Qin Binjao said in a matter-of-fact manner. Look, she's so nice to you, so affectionate, considerate, and kind, and she doesn't want others to eat what you cook. If it were me, if anyone wanted to eat what you cooked, I wouldn't want to. We're talking about business, don't make trouble. Suliang shook his head and said helplessly. He hadn't thought about it at first, but the more his girlfriend talked about it, the more he thought it was reasonable. But you don't even want to give others what you make. Isn't this possessiveness a bit too serious? Suliang frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. After chatting for a while, the girls walked towards the palace after eating. But when they came here, they found that Bai Yi was already waiting here. You are back. Bai Yi squinted her eyes and looked at Suliang with a smile. Obviously many people were coming back, but she seemed to just notice Suliang. Come on, I'll prepare something for you, you must take a look. Wait a minute, why not go with Binjao and the others? Suliang asked tentatively. Are they going to come too? Bai Yi frowned slightly, seeming a little confused. But after a moment, he still nodded reluctantly. All right. However, the gloomy look in his eyes was still noticed by Suliang. Sure enough. Suliang Zhong was very moved. I didn't expect you to be dressed in white like this. He seems to be well behaved and docile, very hospitable, and always smiles at everyone. But the possessiveness she revealed invisibly was simply shocking. Yesterday, just because Qin Binjao held Suliang's hand, he subconsciously took action against Qin Binjao. I don't want to put Sul Yang, Qin Binjao and others in the same room, probably because of this. This morning, I didn't want others to eat what Sul Yang made, so I finished it all myself in advance. And because Qin Binjao and others found Sul Yang, they were a little unhappy. Now, Sul Yang was the only one in his eyes. When he knew that Qin Binjao and others wanted to be together, the gloomy look in his eyes did not appear at all. What exactly is going on? Sul Yang frowned and thought seriously, but had no clue. A person that I have never met and don't know at all is so possessive of me. This is simply outrageous, okay? Or is it because during the simulation? For a moment, Sul Yang felt that he had caught the truth. Time passed, and in a blink of an eye, it was night time again. However, after 2 days and 1 night of observation, except for seeing Bai Yi, Sul Yang and others learned nothing. What kind of imperial path, what kind of proclaiming emperor, nothing achieved at all. What do we do next? Wan Qing asked with a frown. Although I have been on the road to God for such a long time, I still haven't gained anything. They were obviously here to look for opportunities, but after meeting Bai Yi, they all came to a standstill, as if they were on vacation. How can this be done? Although the time is still very long, it would not be right to waste it here all the time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 706. Why don't we just have a showdown with her? Tan Kinja suggested. No matter who she is, there is a reason for keeping us here, right? We can't stay with her like this all the time. After hearing this, all the girls nodded in agreement. Really? No matter what, they can't waste time here any longer. We are all here, no matter what, we have to give it a try. In that case, let's go find her tomorrow. Sul Yang said with a smile. He originally came here to look for a chance to become emperor, but now he has spent 2 days playing with Bai Yi. No matter what her purpose is, this game is enough for now, and there is no need to continue playing it. Immediately. Standing up, Sul Yang said hello to his ladies and then went to the bathroom, intending to take a bath and rest. After being in Beatty City for such a long time, if Bai Yi wanted to take action against them, he would have already done so, and there would be no need for these plots and calculations. Therefore, Sul Yang was very relieved. Immersed in the water, Sul Yang sighed comfortably and began to sort out the clues and details in his mind. There have been too many weird things experienced in the past few days, as if they were all rushing towards Sul Yang. Even Sul Yang felt a little headache. And just then, there was a sound of footsteps, and then there was the sound of water entering. Sul Yang didn't look back at all, he could guess who the visitor was. It must be one of my wives. Listening to this movement, the person with this scale should be my master, right? The only one who can compete with my master is Yuji, but Yuji probably won't come, after all, she is still at the starting line. Even my sister and the Queen Mother are a little weaker than my master. Master, have you bullied Binjao and the others again? Sul Yang said helplessly that he knew his master very well. With his domineering character, he could come alone. He had obviously bullied others first and told them not to follow. However, after Sul Yang's voice fell, he did not receive an answer for a long time. Only the sound of the water splashing was heard, which was especially obvious in this silent room. To this, Sul Yang felt a little strange. Why didn't his master speak? Could it be that the other party was angry because he admitted his mistake? No, Sul Yang doesn't think he will admit his mistake. Next moment, a delicate body suddenly came over and hugged Sul Yang tightly from behind. Delicate and delicate, silky and delicate, with a lingering fragrance that is irresistible. Especially the proud peak, the feeling of softness and rebound between the tight squeezes is really unforgettable. No matter how you look at it, no one should be able to withstand it. But Suliang instantly frowned and became alert. Who are you? He knew his ladies very well, and there was no way he could admit their mistakes, whether it was every detail or the subtle fragrance on their bodies. And now, he didn't understand the person hugging him behind him at all. It's me. Bai's voice came from behind, making Suliang stiffen. You, why are you here? He really didn't expect that the person coming would be in white. He has obviously been waiting for his ladies to come. Ahem, my ladies are coming soon. Why don't you go out first and I'll find you later? Suliang suggested. If they see it, it would be bad if there is any misunderstanding, right? No, they won't come. Bai Yi said lightly, with a little smile in his voice. However, as soon as these words came out, Suliang instantly became cold. What did you do to them? Oops, I was careless, I didn't expect that she would actually take action against her own ladies. If Bai Yi is really an emperor-level existence, even if 11 Hang, Ji Hongchen, Yu Ji, and his master all attack together, they may not be able to withstand it. I did not do anything. Bai Yi glanced at Suliang in confusion. It's just that the door is sealed. Is that all? Suliang Gren was stunned. If the door was sealed, you should have said it earlier. You almost scared me to death, okay. After breathing a little sigh of relief, Suliang frowned and asked. Why are you doing this? I don't want you to continue to be taken advantage of by them. Bai Yi muttered softly, but all the sounds were heard by Suliang. Is that really the case? He has a possessiveness beyond ordinary people's imagination. But they are both my ladies, but you are the one. We have only known each other for 2 days in total. Is there something wrong with your possessiveness? No, we must not do this again, otherwise, something will happen. Suliang stood up decisively. Then I'll leave first, you go on and don't worry about me. But just as he stood up, Bai Yi jumped up and pushed Suliang directly into the water. I haven't allowed you to leave yet. Bai came close to Suliang's ear and murmured softly. There was a hint of fanaticism in those beautiful eyes. Don't worry, I'm just going to rub your back today, nothing will happen to you. After all, good things must be eaten little by little, right? Then, under Bai Yi's actions, it was not until late at night that Suliang walked out of here with a tired face. Although it's just a simple back rub, why do I feel so tired? I have never had this feeling before, even when I faced Yuji. No, we must find a way to become emperor and get out of here. Otherwise, something will happen sooner or later. It's not like Suliang didn't try to struggle just now, but he found that he was no match for Bai Yi. This already speaks volumes. After returning to the room, after Suliang comforted his wives, he lay on the bed, closed his eyes, and planned to take a rest. Sword arrays have been set up around him. Although they can't block Bai Yi, they can still be used as a warning. However, just when Suliang was half asleep, the sound of the system suddenly appeared in his ears. The final simulation has been unlocked. Does the host start the sims? Final simulation? Is it unlocked here? So, does this final simulation have anything to do with the man in white? Suliang woke up immediately, frowned and thought for a long time, and then said, Turn on. In the city. A slender man with a calm and indifferent appearance walked slowly through the crowd, as ethereal as a fairy, without attracting anyone's attention. Suliang came to the city only by chance. But for some reason, he always felt that he might be able to find what he wanted in the city. An existence like his, even a tiny thought, foreshadows something. Therefore, Suliang immediately believed his idea and came to the city. Since it has its own cause and effect, Suliang no longer searches for it deliberately. Instead, he wanders around the city as if he is just wandering around. Occasionally, I will buy some things to taste and feel the beauty of the world of mortals. Although with his existence, the world is so big, he can go anywhere, there is no obstacle at all, and he can take in the entire world with one glance. But that would be too boring. I have always been leisurely and contented in solitude, and occasionally come to the world of mortals, which is not a fun thing. And just when Suliang was about to complete the entire city, his gaze rested on a small figure. That's a little girl. He was obviously only a few years old, but his little face was full of numbness. In this cold winter, he was still wearing thin clothes, which were old and dirty. It was obvious that he had not changed them for a long time. Especially at this moment, this little girl is still imprisoned. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 707. After taking a look at the surrounding environment, Suliang confirmed the identity of the little girl. She was a little slave. If you want to take it away, it seems like it will take a lot of trouble. But so what? So far, no one has been able to stop what Suliang wants to do. Suliang walked up to the little girl as if there was no one around, and said lightly, "Follow me." The little girl raised her head, her eyes were dull, she just glanced at Suliang briefly, then lowered her head again. After suffering so much and going through many vicissitudes of life, she no longer dared to accept those so-called good intentions. But Suliang didn't care about this. He valued this little girl very much and must take her away. Just after taking a quick look, he discovered that this girl was actually carrying a holy body. If she was well cultivated, her future achievements would definitely not be lower than his own. And this girl has a destiny, but Suliang felt a little palpitating just by looking at her. Things like destiny may sound illusory, but it can't be hidden from Suliang at all. "Let's go, I'll take you to practice," Suliang said lightly, then stretched out his hand towards the iron chain. And until then, the little girl finally had some reaction, took Suliang's hand, shook her head and said, "Don't, you'll get beaten." "Are you still worried that you will be beaten?" "This girl is surprisingly kind." Suliang raised his eyebrows, and then said calmly, "It doesn't matter, no one can hurt me." "Say it." Suliang broke free of the little girl's hand and gently pointed at the chain. Moment. The iron chain disintegrated and disappeared without a trace. Suliang waved his hand and knocked away all the people surrounding him. He took the little girl's hand and said, "Let's go, I'll take you back." "Say it." Taking one step forward, it seemed as if he had crossed thousands of mountains and seas, and appeared in a quiet place. Looking at everything around her, the little girl always felt as if she was dreaming. "I thought that today would be the same day as before, suffering from the same cold, hunger, and exhaustion. But later, I met a strange big brother. Although he was very good looking, he said he wanted to take him away. How is this possible? Just a little maid, just a little slave, who would risk offending others just to take her away. But I didn't expect that the eldest brother not only really took her away, but also brought her to such a place. Looking at everything around me, the beautiful mountains and clear waters, the singing of birds and the fragrance of flowers, the tranquility and peace, it's like a fairyland. Thinking about it again, it seems that the eldest brother brought him here in one step. This kind of thing can only be done by legendary immortals, right?" Chapter 604 Chapter 603 Ending the Possibility of Immortality. "Brother, are you an immortal?" the little girl asked with her beautiful eyes widened. "No." Suliang shook his head, but added lightly in his heart, "Call me a fairy? Is it worthy of an immortal?" Immediately. Before waiting, the little girl asked curiously again. Suliang grabbed the back of her neck and held her with his other hand, as if holding a kitten. He took the little girl directly to the bathroom. Go and clean yourself. The clothes are prepared for you. Remember to change them when you come out. After warning the little girl, Suliang turned around and left. The little girl was left alone, and after confirming several times that this was not a dream, she finally left. After a long time, the little girl finally walked out of the bathroom, wearing the new clothes Suliang had prepared for her. She put her hands in front of her and kneaded them together, looking timid. Suliang turned around to take a look and nodded with satisfaction. The little girl has a very good foundation. Now after taking a bath and putting on new clothes, she looks absolutely adorable. Except for losing a little weight, she is so cute. As for being thin, Suliang thinks there is no problem and he will definitely take good care of this girl. Come, sit down. Suliang waved his hand, pointed to the position next to him, and motioned for the little girl to sit down. Sitting down timidly, the little girl looked at Suliang. For a moment, she didn't know how to speak. Don't be afraid, I won't do anything to you. Suliang said calmly. What's your name? Hearing this, the little girl immediately announced a name. However, Suliang blinked, as if he didn't hear clearly. See this? The little girl thought for a while. Big brother, please call me Xiaochuanzi. My parents call me that. Yeah, Xiaochuanzi. Suliang nodded, picked up the teapot on the side, and poured a cup of tea for Xiaochuanzi. I have no intention of asking about your past, but since I brought you back, I naturally have my purpose. Well, Xiaochuanzi knows. Xiaochuanzi nodded, he was frighteningly well behaved and sensible. I just don't know, what does Big Brother want Xiaochuanzi? Practice. Suliang looked at Xiaochuanzi seriously. From now on, I will teach you how to practice well, and you just need to practice seriously, whether it is for me or for yourself. Is that just it? Xiaochuanzi blinked, his cute big eyes full of confusion. Of course she knew what cultivation was like, she would always hear people talk about it. But this is obviously something that is for your own good. My eldest brother brought me back just to let me practice? Right, that is it. Suliang nodded and pushed the teacup in front of him. Come, drink this cup of tea, and I will officially teach you how to practice. Huh? Oh. Xiaochuanzi didn't seem to expect that Suliang would be so straightforward. He was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly and drank the tea in the cup. Moment. Xiaochuanzi was stunned. His eyes were hazy and he was in a daze. Xiaochuanzi fell straight onto the chair, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. Suliang was not surprised at all. Instead, he calmly caught the teacup and placed it on the table. This teacup is also a good thing. Holding it in your hand will help you to realize the truth. If you put it outside, it will probably cause countless people to fight for it. But here in Suliang, it is ordinary, just the most ordinary things. Sleep well. When you wake up, you will find that everything is different. Suliang gently touched Xiao Tuanzi's head with a smile on his face. Following Suliang's movements, a little bit of heat seemed to rise from Xiao Tuanzi's head, and vaguely, there seemed to be stars floating on it, looking extremely gorgeous. But in fact, these are normal situations. What Suliang gave Xiao Tuanzi to drink just now was tea brewed from Wu Dao tea, so that at this moment, Xiao Tuanzi could touch the galaxy above his head. That is the river of avenues. Getting in touch with the river of Dao before her training has even begun will be of great benefit to Xiaochuanzi's future, and she can lay the solid foundation for her at this moment. Carrying the holy body, Xiaochuanzi deserves such enlightenment, or in other words, must have such enlightenment in order to prevent the Holy Land from going to waste. Since you are the holy body, I will give you the enlightenment tea leaves. Such an arrangement shows Suliang's thoughts. As for the white mist rising overhead, it's just that Xiaochuan's little head is exposed to the so-called Tao and rules for the first time, and it is difficult to understand and digest, which makes the temperature a little high. With Suliang here, he doesn't have to worry about any danger. After a long time, Suliangdu had already prepared a table full of food and placed it in front of the two of them. Xiaochuanzi finally woke up and looked at Suliang in front of him, looking a little excited and a little confused. "Brother, I just..." She could clearly feel that many of the things she had come into contact with just now had been left in her little mind, and they were being digested and understood by her. Even if she didn't know what it was, she could still feel that she seemed to be getting stronger bit by bit, and every part of her body was cheering for joy. It seemed that during the brief period of time when she was unconscious, she had gained great benefits. But she had no idea what was going on, and she had no idea what she had gained. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 708. I only know that the benefits are given to me by my eldest brother, but what exactly did my eldest brother pay? Xiaochuanzi, who was still a small ball, looked confused. It's just tea leaves for enlightenment. It's nothing. Come on, have something to eat. Suliang shook his head and pointed to the food on the table in front of him. Moment. Xiaochuan's attention was all attracted by the delicious food in front of him. He lives a life of not having enough to eat every day, and Xiaochuanzi is growing up, so when he sees delicious food, he naturally becomes a little greedy. Especially the overly delicious things made by Suliang made Xiaochuanzi unable to resist. Can I really eat these? Xiaochuanzi resisted the urge to pounce and asked in a low voice. Well, I made it just for you. Eat it quickly. Suliang nodded, completely making Xiaochuanzi feel at ease. Then, Xiaochuanzi couldn't bear it any longer, so he pounced on it, not caring about so much, and started gobbling it up. I was already very hungry, but after drinking the enlightenment tea, I was a little more exhausted. Now there is something to eat in front of me, and it is made by Suliang. It is made with the best ingredients and tastes far beyond normal. How can I endure this? In less than a moment, everything in front of Xiaochuanzi has been eaten by her. Belch. Xiaochuanzi burped, feeling like he couldn't eat any more. Immediately, looking at the empty bowls and plates in front of him, and then looking at Suliang who was looking at him leisurely in front of him, Xiaochuanzi blushed and asked. Brother, I don't seem to have left anything for you. It doesn't matter, I won't eat. Just eat when you're full. After shaking his head, Suliang suddenly stood up and patted Xiaochuanzi's head gently. Moment. Xiaochuanzi felt her eyes blur, and then, a very obscure article suddenly appeared in her head. Don't ask too many questions. Follow the route drawn here and carefully transport your energy, blood, and spiritual power. Suliang reminded. This kind of teaching does seem a bit hasty, but in fact it is the most effective. Although the holy body is powerful, it also requires more spiritual power and resources to fully supply it and maximize the holy body. And what the Soviet Union had just given her to eat were all natural and earthly treasures that contained extremely rich energy. If it weren't for the holy body, I'm afraid it wouldn't be digested at all. And even a holy body like Xiaochuanzi requires specific methods to fully digest the energy within it. The exercise Suliang just passed on to her was exactly in this area. Of course, the current little blanket cannot read such obscure exercises. But it doesn't matter, there are pictures on it, which are enough for the little group to read. Soon, under Suliang's guidance, Xiaochuanzi entered a transformational state of cultivation. Her small body absorbed and transformed the huge energy, replenishing everything she had. Until late at night, Xiaochuanzi's practice had just ended, and he took a long breath. He felt refreshed and his body seemed to be full of energy. "Big brother!" Xiaochuanzi shouted with great joy, wanting to share his feelings with his elder brother. However, as soon as she made a move, the chair beneath her was carried flying out by her huge strength. Fortunately, everything in Suliang's place is made of special things. It is extremely tough and has special effects. There is no need to worry about it being destroyed. But Xiaochuanzi didn't know this. He was a little confused and looked at the chair in the distance in panic. Then he looked at Suliang with tears in his eyes. "Brother Suliang, I really didn't mean it. I have already lost a lot of money to Brother Suliang and cannot afford to pay it back, and now I have another chair." "It's okay, you don't have to pay." Suliang shook his head and laughed. With a wave of his hand, the chair flew back and returned to its original position. "Okay, sit back and relax. You just ate too many heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and your strength increased sharply after digestion. You just didn't get used to it for a while. It's okay." After hearing this, Xiaochuanzi still sat down while still doubting his belief. But then, looking at Suliang with a warm smile in front of him, Xiaochuanzi asked in a daze. "Brother, why are you so nice to me? Bring yourself back, give yourself delicious food, and teach yourself how to practice." Although she didn't know what enlightenment tea and those heavenly and earthly treasures were, she could feel that those things were definitely worth a lot of money. It is definitely not something one can afford to repay on his own. Xiaochuanzi vaguely remembered that even master and apprentice would not pay like this, right? "Big brother, are you going to accept me as your disciple?" Xiaochuanzi stared at her big beautiful eyes and asked cutely. "No, I am your protector." Suliang replied calmly. "Big brother. Call me Suliang, Aoyang, anything is fine, but don't call me brother, I am your protector." "Oh, brother Suliang, where are we going?" Xiaochuanzi sat on Suliang's shoulder, his little legs swaying, lively and cute. Has it been 2 years since Suliang brought him back? In the past 2 years, Xiaochuanzi has been practicing with Suliang. His daily routine is to eat treasures from heaven and earth to cultivate his cultivation, then eat treasures from heaven and earth, practice martial arts, eat treasures from heaven and earth, and then hug him. He slept with Suliang coquettishly. Compared with when I just met Suliang before. At this moment, Xiaochuanzi is obviously much taller, and he no longer looks as thin as before. His body is slender, and paired with his rosy little face, he is very cute. She is already a big Lolita, but she is not old enough yet. She is still old enough to sit on Suliang's shoulders and act coquettishly with Suliang. And compared to before, at this moment, Xiaochuanzi has lost so much restraint and politeness. He seems to really regard Suliang as his brother, and he behaves in a very familiar and natural way. "You girl." Suliang sighed, patted Xiaochuanzi's little face, and said no more, but said helplessly. "I'll take you to practice. Your cultivation has grown rapidly over such a long period of time. Now, you need to find a few equally matched opponents to settle down. Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything without combat experience. Girl, you must work hard. You can end the possibility of my immortality. If you only have cultivation but no combat experience, you can't do it." As an ancient taboo, the only one in existence, Suliang was tired of being alone and tired of his immortal self for so many years. No matter how busy the world is, to Suliang, it is just a passing cloud, not even a passerby. After the excitement, all that is left is a deeper loneliness. No matter how determined you are, it will be difficult to persevere for a long time. So, I walked around the mortal world to find the possibility of my own immortality. And this person is Xiaochuanzi. I see. Xiaochuanzi nodded, seeming to understand, but didn't think much about it. After staying with him for so long, no matter what he did, he would never scold or punish himself, and what he did, no matter how outrageous, was only good for him. A few years have been enough for Xiaochuanzi to trust Suliang wholeheartedly. Since he said cultivation, it was cultivation. All he had to do was practice according to what he said. And doing this will make him happy, won't it? Thinking of the sincere smile on Suliang's lips every time he finished his training seriously and gained a lot, Xiaochuanzi was also very happy and felt that he was becoming more motivated. Immediately afterwards, she was placed on the edge of the forest by Suliang. Go ahead and walk through this forest by yourself. Suliang pointed to the dark and quiet forest in front of him and said lightly. He had already explored it before coming, and even used his strength to clean up the entire forest. Now, the strongest existence here is only a small realm higher than Xiaochuanzi. However, for such a being, Xiaochuanzi, who has a holy body and is practicing the only technique that Suliang, the ancient taboo, has understood and modified, is also practicing the top technique created by Suliang. It is really vulnerable. This girl only needs half of her strength to break through the forest. And this is consistent with Suliang's thoughts. Although you want to train this girl, you can't go too far and really hurt this girl, right? Am I alone? Xiaochuanzi looked back at Suliang with a sad face. The forest in front of me was pitch black, and even though it was daytime, I couldn't see clearly what was in it. It seems that everything is full of danger and unknown. Xiaochuanzi was also very scared. Yes, you are alone, I will wait for you on the other side. Suliang pointed in the direction in front, and then disappeared suddenly. This time, Xiaochuanzi didn't even have time to say goodbye. Then, Xiaochuanzi only hesitated, cheering himself up and walking towards the forest. His short legs started to tremble a little. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 709. And the other side. Suliang did not leave at all, but stayed high in the forest, staring at Xiaochuanzi without blinking. Although a series of measures have been taken to minimize the danger that Xiaochuanzi may encounter, but Suliang was still a little worried and was ready to take action at any time. In the forest. Since brother Suliang left me alone, it means that I can definitely do it. Xiaochuanzi murmured in a low voice, cheering himself up, and walked forward bit by bit. I'm not afraid. As long as brother Suliang is here, I'm not afraid of anything. But the words just fell. Click. The sound of a branch breaking suddenly came, which startled Xiaochuanzi and almost made him cry. Although she is more sensible and stronger than ordinary children, it does not mean that she will not be afraid. He quickly turned around and saw a huge wild boar suddenly appearing in front of Xiaochuanzi. The ferocious fangs and thorns all over the body startled Xiaochuanzi. Yeah, you, don't come over. Without saying a word, Xiaochuanzi ran away. Although she had good cultivation, she had never seen such a thing before. What on earth is this? Seeing Xiaochuanzi running away, the wild boar ran after him without saying a word, as if he didn't care about the difference in cultivation between him and Xiaochuanzi. One person, one pig, one running away and one chasing after each other, wasting a lot of time before finally stopping. Without any signs of breathing, Xiaochuanzi no longer felt afraid and looked at the wild boar in front of him angrily. Bad guy, why are you chasing me? Brother Suliang said that anyone who wants to harm him must be defeated and no mercy can be given. Then, Xiaochuanzi stepped up and hit the wild boar with his small fist. Moment. The big wild boar that was 2 to 3 meters high was knocked down by a small dumpling that was more than 1 meter tall. It struggled for a long time and was unable to get up. See this? Xiaochuan's eyes gradually brightened. It seems like, maybe, I must be very powerful? This monster that looks so terrifying is no match for him. Sure enough, Brother Suliang didn't lie to me, I am the strongest. Then. No more fear, no more running away. Xiaochuanzi stood on top of the wild boar's head, driving the wild boar to lead him towards the exit. All the ferocious beasts encountered along the way were unable to withstand Xiaochuanzi's punch. By the time she reached the exit, countless ferocious beasts were already following behind her. Brother Suliang, I'm out. Xiaochuanzi put his hands on his hips, feeling very proud. Am I awesome? Well, that's great. Suliang nodded, looking a little confused. One trial can bring back all the ferocious beasts from the mountain. Where did you come from? In the city. The elegant and beautiful girl came to a small stall, took out her money, bought some food, and walked towards the outside of the city while eating. Every time a girl goes out, she will bring plenty of money, even enviable amounts of money. It is absolutely fine to find the best restaurant in the city, eat well and sleep. But the girl was not like this. She had to hurry up and hurry up. There was no time to waste here. Moreover, he also said that it is completely okay to feel a little bit of necessary grievance when going out. The girl suffered a lot when she was very young. She just ate something casually because she was on the road. It was nothing at all. Walking outside the city, the girl found a clean and secluded place, cleaned the surroundings, and sat down. Immediately. After lighting a bonfire, the girl put the remaining half of the food aside, but sat there with her legs crossed, staring at the bonfire in silence without saying a word. After a while, a slender and ethereal figure suddenly appeared from the void and came to the girl's side. I've told you many times, I don't need to eat, and I won't feel hungry. There is no need to leave anything behind for me. Suliang had a little helplessness on his face. He found that in front of this girl Xiaochuanzi, he could not maintain the calmness and indifference that he had cultivated for countless years. This girl will always do something that makes her feel helpless. Hey, there's no need to eat or die from eating. The girl Xiaochuanzi said with a smile, and handed the thing to Suliang's mouth. Life is very long, especially for us. Daily cultivation is hard enough and boring. If we don't have anything we like, how boring should life be? After following Suliang for several years, Xiaochuanzi has grown into a slim girl, pure and cute, and feels a bit aloof in front of outsiders. But in front of Suliang, she always seemed to be the little girl brought back by Suliang, innocent and cute. And after so many years of careful teaching, care, and training. From the beginning, he treated Suliang with respect and restraint, but later he treated Suliang like an elder, with unscrupulousness and intimacy. And now, seems a little more cautious and caring? After several years of teaching, care, and protection, the girl's love blossomed, and she secretly expressed her love for her. Naturally, she could no longer be as close and intimate as usual to her sweetheart, who she was secretly in love with. Otherwise, you can't help but say what's on your mind. Turning to look at Suliang, who was eating silently, Xiaochuanzi smiled happily. In the beginning, Suliang just kept her at home, taught her constantly, and provided her with various resources to improve her cultivation. Later, when she grew older, he took her to various secret realms and dangerous places, allowing her to continue fighting in crises, improving her combat experience and her cultivation strength. Chapter 605 Chapter 604, Nirvana Method, a simulation full of mysteries. After that, and now like this, Suliang asked her to go out alone, travel around the world, and see everything in the world. Suliang, as a protector, has been following Xiaochuanzi secretly. Unless she encounters a life or death crisis, otherwise, he will not take action. but that's the case. With him by his side, Xiao Chuanzi felt much more at ease. As long as he is with me, I will dare to go no matter what kind of place, and I will not be afraid of any danger. As long as you are by my side, everything will be fine. Where do you plan to go tomorrow? After eating, Suliang suddenly asked. You haven't decided yet, why don't you just look in a different direction? Xiao Chuanzi held up his chin and looked at Suliang with a smile. When I was a child, I thought this face was very good looking. Now it seems that I was still naive when I was a child. Is this beautiful? This is clearly the best looking. How could you not like this? I don't know if I and his children will be so good looking in the future. When thinking of that scene, Xiao Chuanzi couldn't help but blush, and lowered his head shyly. Although I vowed to do it, I still feel shy when I think about it. Inexplicably, Suliang glanced at Xiao Chuanzi, who suddenly blushed. Suliang didn't think much and just said, there seems to be a secret realm about to open in that direction. If you can go and have a look. There should be a lot of good things there. Certainly. Good things are secondary. As the protector of Xiao Chuanzi, Suliang has everything he needs, no matter what kind of things he has. No matter what Xiao Chuanzi lacks or wants, Suliang can give it to her, and it's of the highest quality. So, Xiao Chuanzi has no shortage of these good things, and Suliang doesn't think that he asked Xiao Chuanzi to participate in this secret realm just for chance. Secret realms like this are usually attended by countless powerful people. Although the battle is fierce, this is just right. What Xiao Chuanzi lacks most is this kind of brutal battle. Therefore, it is most appropriate for her to participate in this secret realm competition. After hearing Suliang's words, Xiao Chuanzi's eyes lit up. Okay, then I'll go take a look tomorrow. Are there any more battles and treasures to get? So excited, so happy. Fighting, or treasures, are not the most important thing to Xiao Chuanzi. What she wanted was Suliang's relief and satisfied smile after she won the battle and found something good. Then, after a short rest for the night, Xiao Chuanzi put away Suliang's clothes, covering himself early the next morning, and set out on the road to find the secret realm. Looking at Xiao Chuanzi's back, Suliang opened his mouth, but still couldn't speak. This girl pretended to be cold every night, so Suliang couldn't help but take off his coat and cover her body. Then, the next morning, she put away her clothes as if no one else was around, as if it was a matter of course. How many pieces have been lost so far? Looking at his ending, Suliang shook his head helplessly. It was almost gone. Forget it, as long as this girl is happy. Others don't seem to be very important. Time passed, and it was not until noon that Xiao Chuanzi finally found the entrance to the secret realm. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 710. And at this moment, in front of the gate of the secret realm, there was almost a crowd of people, all of whom were the most amazing group of proud people in the world. All of them are arrogant and arrogant. They usually have their own social circle, and they all know or are familiar with each other. Therefore, they looked down upon people like Xiao Tuanzi, who they had never seen before, didn't know their background, and were even a little weaker than them in cultivation, and they didn't bother to talk to Xiao Tuanzi at all. To this, Xiao Chuanzi didn't care. She just stood aside quietly and waited. It would be nice to have Suliang in her world. It doesn't matter to anyone else. And just then, a girl with a white veil walked forward, smiling softly. Is this sister alone? How about the two of us together? However, before Xiao Tuanzi nodded in agreement, someone came forward and looked at Xiao Tuanzi with a cold face. I advise you to stay away from her, otherwise, there will be consequences at your own risk. At this time, Xiao Chuanzi was confused. Who are you? Xiaochuanzi looked at the young man who came to him inexplicably, completely confused as to what was going on with him. I just said a word to me, so you don't need to take care of it? What do I want to do and where do I need you to take care of it? But Xiaochuanzi didn't say anything unpleasant. He just looked at the girl next to him up and down, nodded and said, "Okay. This girl should be considered a good person, right?" Xiaochuanzi rarely interacts with other people, but her experiences as a child have given her some insights into how to look at people. This girl looks a little weak and timid, but she actually doesn't seem to be a bad person. After hearing what Xiaochuanzi said, the young man's face darkened and he said coldly, "This girl, she offended the young master of the Changsheng family." Seeing that the girl can achieve such a level of cultivation at such a young age, she must have some background. But those people behind the girl, compared with the Changsheng family. He didn't finish his words, but the feeling of threat was palpable. But Xiaochuanzi still looked confused about this. "What are you talking about? I've never heard of the young master of the immortal family. She has been following Suliang, and as the only taboo existence in the world, Suliang obviously will not take the mere longevity family seriously. Even if Xiaochuanzi was allowed to go out alone, he would not tell her these things. So, Xiaochuanzi really knows nothing about this. How dare you look down on the Changsheng family so much?" The young man was completely shocked, as if he had never expected that Xiaochuanzi would say such a thing. "You're very annoying." Xiaochuanzi frowned and looked at the young man in front of him. It was obvious that he was already a little upset with him. "Who are these people? I am just here waiting for the secret realm to open, so he keeps nagging me and keeps saying threatening words to me." Although Xiaochuanzi didn't understand the Changsheng family, she also knew that this person was threatening her. "Before, I just thought it was troublesome, so I didn't bother to pay attention to it, but this person kept talking, and Xiaochuanzi couldn't bear it anymore." "Humph, you dare to despise the Changsheng family like this, you are seeking death." The young man snorted coldly, and then his aura rose up, and he was about to attack Xiaochuanzi. "See how I teach you, young master, an ignorant person like you who doesn't know how to live or die." Then, he was slapped away by Xiaochuanzi. "Who is this person?" Xiaochuanzi asked the girl in confusion. "Why do you think he's so annoyed? Sister, is she actually so powerful?" The girl was a little surprised. "He is a collateral disciple of a certain aristocratic family. Although he is not as good as a direct descendant like the young master of the Changsheng family, his talent resources are among the best in the world. It's really incredible that my sister can defeat him with a cultivation that is weaker than his. Is it great?" Xiaochuanzi looked at the girl in confusion, obviously not very familiar with his own strength. She had been following Suliang and had only recently started walking. She had very little contact with people. Although there were some battles, they were not too many. "In fact, I have never had a clear understanding of my own strength. I just feel that among people of similar age to her, there are actually a group of people who are better than her in cultivation. But it doesn't matter, it's her opponents, but it's actually not that many. After all, Xiaochuanzi carries the holy body, and his strength is far superior to that of his peers, and he also needs to spend more resources. Although his cultivation is not as good as others, it is also because of the holy body, and his foundation is very solid. Naturally, his strength far exceeds that of his peers. Except for the top geniuses, there are really not many people who can rival her. It's awesome." The girl nodded seriously. But then, he bit his cherry lips and said worriedly, "However, behind this man is the young master of the Changsheng family. With his strength, he can't even make a move in front of the young master of Changsheng. This sister should leave as soon as possible. Don't do it for my little sister's sake. On the contrary, it will put her in danger. It's okay, Don't be afraid. Xiaochuanzi waved his hand and said grandly. What an immortal family, there is no fear at all. This time I went out to walk in the world, I was going to experience a battle of life and death. There is no need to be afraid of offending others, as long as you are correct, then there will be no problem. At this moment, in the crowd, a young man who was surrounded by everyone heard the commotion here, turned his head and looked at Xiaochuanzi, and frowned slightly. A bunch of trash. Speaking mercilessly to the knocked down person, the young man snorted. However, she dares to touch those who have offended my young master and protect those who have offended my young master. It seems that she also wants to go against my young master. In that case, just wait until you enter the secret realm and solve it directly. These short words received a burst of praise from the audience for the young master's wisdom. The young master of the Changsheng family seemed to be used to such flattery. He just glanced in the direction of Xiaochuanzi and stopped looking further. The strength may be good, but the cultivation level is very weak. Compared with myself, it is far behind. And he himself is the top genius, with the ability to fight at higher levels, which makes the gap even wider. The gap like a chasm cannot be made up by something like martial arts talent. Don't take her to heart at all. That's when a wave of fluctuation appeared, and the secret realm was opened. Then Xiaochuanzi, the girl, the young master of the Changsheng family and others walked in one after another to look for opportunities. After nearly a day and night, we reached the deepest part of the secret realm. Xiaochuanzi looked at the people gathered around him with a vigilant expression, feeling a little headache. This time, there is some trouble. She also didn't expect that she would attract so many people to besiege her just for offending the young master of an immortal family. With her strength, she is more than enough to deal with any one of them, and she won't find it troublesome at all. But with so many people together, there is a young master who is no weaker than her and is eyeing her. For a moment, even Xiaochuanzi didn't know what to do. As for how he offended the young master of the immortal family, it is simple to say. The girl who followed Xiaochuanzi turned out to be the young master who took a fancy to her when he went out occasionally and wanted to take her away by force. However, the girl was unwilling and fled all the way here. But now, Xiaochuanzi seemed to want to protect the girl for no reason, and naturally became involved with the young master. After entering the secret realm, the two sides fought even more, and the conflict intensified. At the end, Xiaochuanzi directly obtained the final opportunity of the secret realm and snatched it away in front of the young master. This directly offended the young master to death. It seems normal for the other party to want to attack Xiaochuanzi. This time, we were in big trouble. After a battle, looking at the few enemies left in front of him, Xiaochuanzi didn't feel at all relaxed and happy. This battle was really too fierce. There were many opponents, and they were all top talents from a large sect family. Their strength should not be underestimated. Fighting alone, Xiaochuanzi can still persist until now, and he actually won in the end, which is incredible. After all, no matter how powerful she is still a human being and her power has its limits. At this moment, her strength was almost reaching its limit, and it was almost difficult for her to cope with any more dangerous battles. But in front of her, there was a young master from an immortal family. Before, Xiaochuanzi had a big fight with others and had no time or experience to care about him. Because of this, the young master of the Changsheng family has been watching from the side and has no intention of taking action. Until now, Xiaochuanzi was exhausted and was about to reach his limit, but the young master of the Changsheng family was still in his prime, full of energy and powerful. Fighting against such an enemy, Xiaochuanzi has no chance of winning. But just give up and admit defeat?